Today we are on Todd Carver office, and my question's gonna be about the journey from police to politic. We'll see. Okay, Todd. Hi.
Hi.
That's very nice to see you.
Very nice to see you.
So tell me, 30 years you were a cop.
Mm-hmm.
What happened? What did you decide to change the chair?
So I retired from our sheriff's office. In North Carolina, if you work 30 years in law enforcement, then you've worked long enough to earn a retirement. And so I had earned my retirement, and it was time to go and do something else. So when I left the sheriff's office, I went to work for our local community college, and I was training the next generation of police officers. And so I did that for 5 years. And then after I did that, or while I was doing that, I decided to run for the North Carolina House. And so that was once I got elected, then it was time to leave that job at the community college system and come here to be a representative in the North Carolina House.
When you got your pension ticket, why you did not decide to go on the farm and raise strawberry? Why you wanted to be here?
I had always had a dream of coming to the North Carolina House of Representatives. It's really just my community. I had lived in Mooresville my whole life, other than when I was gone in the service, in the military, and been in that community my whole entire life. And so I'd always said I would really like the opportunity to run for that North Carolina House seat because it was really so just contiguous to my city. And so that was what I decided to do, and the opportunity presented itself, and I'm not regretted coming up here.
You probably know about fear a lot by all your life. Tell me, where did you get more fear? At 3 a.m. when you was a policeman, or when you make a decision and a lot of people depend on it?
It's a different kind of nervousness, a different kind of apprehension. Obviously there's at 3 o'clock in the morning and it's just you there, that's a different type of fear. And but I wouldn't describe it as fear up here. Maybe just nervousness or apprehension. I want to make sure I make the right decision for the 90,000 people who live in my district, because I only have a green button or a red button. I don't have a yellow button. There's no maybe button. There's no, hey, I want to think about that a little bit longer button. So it's a yes or no. And so that definitely causes a little apprehension sometimes, but usually I feel pretty confident that I've researched the bill enough to know that I'm making the right choice.
Where the most harder place to make a decision, here or police?
Well, God, I don't know. I think probably sometimes here, because in law enforcement work there was a maybe button, there was a sometimes button, there was a we can do a little something different in this unique situation. And here it's either thumbs up or thumbs down, and people are going to know for years and years how I voted on something and what decision I made. So it's just a different way of really going through the same process.
Do you feel pressure here?
Sure, absolutely. I want to do well for my constituents back home, and so absolutely there's pressure here.
Yeah. What do you do for handle it?
To handle the pressure, like positive outlets. I mean, so when I go back home, I try not to do. I don't do politics every day when I go back home. My son has a business, and I like to help him, do some things, and it's totally unrelated to politics or law enforcement. It's something just totally different, and so that's a good release for me. I work with my wife. My wife is Tracy outside, and so she and I get to share some of these experiences together, and so it helps to have somebody that I can talk to about, what's going on and how the day went.
Let's talk about your wonderful wife. She's work here with you.
Mm-hmm.
Where the job stopped
Mm-hmm.
and private life started.
Yeah. She tells me all the time if I get out of line, my schedule's going to get booked up, and I'm going to get full with appointments. And so, no, it's been a great opportunity to have her here working with me, and I really enjoy us working together. Never had that prior to this.
But who is the boss here?
Oh, she's definitely the boss.
What about at home?
She's certainly the boss at home. Make no mistake about it.
So I know you teach new
Mm-hmm.
guys to work in police, and what do you tell them about fear? Not about the safety protocols, but the fear what inside us when we are in front of the danger.
That it's natural. It's very normal. Um, I try to teach people to treat folks like you want to be treated, and that you'll reap what you sow. If you go in up here on a level 10, then it's hard to come back down to a level 4. Start out at a level 4, and then if you need to go up to a 10, you can. But that I think fear is just a normal part of life. I mean,
Can you control it?
sure, absolutely.
What about stress level? If you all the time in the fear, you probably have the very high stress level. How you figure out this?
I I felt like I was able to turn it on and off. I was not one of those people who was afraid to go to Walmart. Afraid I might run into somebody. I would go to Walmart all the time, and Tracy would, my wife would be with me, and we'd run into somebody that I had arrested at Walmart, and I never had an issue once. Um, One time, when I had my daughter with me when she was younger, I ran into somebody at out in the community, and they were sort of ugly, but it was very rare. I mean, if you think over 30 years and the hundreds of people I arrested and interacted with, to only have one, person, I mean, that's pretty good. So I, I, I absolutely have never lived my life in fear, and would refuse to do so. So.
I'm from Ukraine and I'm escaped from war with my 3 kids. What would you say to Ukrainian people who are in Ukraine right now and they have like the attacks almost every night? They are in fear almost every night. What would you tell them?
I don't know that I have any advice I could offer them, because I've never walked a mile in those shoes. I've never lived in that situation, and I would just have to say to them that there are lots of people around the world. My heart goes out, to the families who are having to deal with that, and to be in fear all the time like that. Uh, my heart goes out to them, and I hope that can get resolved really soon, and they would not have to live like that, permanently. But I certainly have no expertise or tips to offer folks who are having to live in. They could probably offer me tips on dealing with stress.
30 years in the law, and you have seen people in their worst.
Mm-hmm.
Trust people more or less?
That's an interesting question. I always tell people that in law enforcement, you get to see people at their very best and at their very worst. That there are times when you get to see people be really, really good to each other. And then there are times you get to see them when they're really, really evil to each other. And I think it's probably made me just somewhat skeptical, somewhat cynical sometimes. But I try not to, you know, be judgmental against everybody, because people are individuals. I mean, and I certainly saw that in folks, that they come in all shapes and sizes, and I can't, just like I can't stereotype all white people or all black people or all Asian people or all people from Ukraine. I can't treat them all the same. I have to deal with them as individuals, And so that's just how I do life.
But how is, in your opinion, why some people do some bad things?
Oh, there's evil people out there. There are truly evil people out
Why they are evil?
there. If I had the answer to that, I wouldn't have to have worked 30 years. I have no idea. I don't know. I wish I knew. Um, why do I choose to do things for the good and somebody else chooses to do things for evil? I wish I knew. I wish I knew the answer to that.
It's not something about society where some young generation was born and raised. It's not about the rules, what was in the certain families. Just your opinion, what create something in their mind and they decide to choose this wrong way?
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that, because you have children who grow up in the same exact household and go very different paths, and they had the same environment, they had very similar biological makeup. There's lots of similarities there, and they choose very, very different paths. And then you have people who uh, are maybe born as siblings but separated, and sometimes they choose the same path, sometimes they choose a different path. I really believe in our own ability to choose, and make choices for myself as an individual, and that I have consequences for those. And I believe you do too, and every person who's out there listening to this gets to make those choices. So I don't know that there's one explanation to explain it all in all cases.
How many people you arrested?
Oh, hundreds.
Do you believe those people or people like this can change?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
And what make them change?
Maybe, there are some people that I arrested when they were really young. Maybe they were 18, 19 years old, and I interacted with them again in their late 20s, and they were like a different person. They had matured. Maybe they were in maybe they were intoxicated when I first interacted with them one time, and then they weren't the next time. So certainly people can change.
And how government can help people to change their life and their their decisions?
We can incentivize people for making the right choices and discourage people from making the wrong choices. That's the purpose of the law. That's the purpose of the penalties, the consequences.
Name one moment in those 30 years when you made a decision and you still think, I should have done it differently.
There's just a couple of traffic stops maybe I made. I think about one lady that I had stopped for speeding, and she was really close to like where the speed limit changed. So maybe it went from 45 to 35. And where I rode her at, she was clearly in the 35 zone. But, I probably, if it had happened later in my career, I probably would have been like, okay, well, let's have a little bit more grace with that. And I didn't, because I was, just like everything else, when you're young, you're seeing things through a different lens. And so just like the criminal, matures, the police officer does too. Yeah.
Well, you still remember this story?
Oh, yeah, I can remember it very clearly, because I know this lady, and she's mentioned it to me. I've been at a party before, and her say, "God, you remember that?" And I'm like, "Yeah, oh yeah, I remember it." Because I feel like it's one of those, if I could redo it.
And you regret about it?
Sure, absolutely.
Did you say you're sorry?
Yes, I did.
Your wife, Tracy, sees you after the hard day. And what does she knows about you that nobody knows?
She sees silly, goofy, like every other husband and wife, She just sees that side of me that I'm not going to show
So
the public.
here for us, you're strong man.
Right.
But in home,
I'm, doing flips across the bed, at night to get in the bed. And she's laughing. She's like, what in the world's wrong with you?
the higher you raise, there are less people you can speak to honestly. Who you call to and have the honest conversation?
There are a couple people. There's a couple people that I was on the school board with that are those people for me that I can reach out to and just say, hey, I'm thinking about this on this position. What's your thoughts on that? And can just sort of bounce that idea off of them. There are a couple of just really good friends that I have that I've been friends with, some of them for 30, 40 years. And I can reach out to them and just say, hey, what do you think about this issue? Let's say it's an issue on education. Then, I'm probably going to go to those old school board friends. If it's an issue on, law enforcement, I've got some public safety friends I can reach out to there. And if it's something that has absolutely nothing to do with either, I've got some new friends I've made up here. Like say, a Grant Campbell he's a medical doctor and he's also in the House of Representatives. So if we have an issue that's come up that it has to do with health care or health related, then I'm probably going to go have a conversation with my friend Grant.
What do you think? The more harder, no, not harder, the most tight relationships with friends was born when we were kids or when we are adults?
There's certainly a person that I've been friends with since the 5th grade, since the 4th grade. Those are, and that's a friendship that, I hope to have my whole life. But I think they all serve different purposes, I mean, that person who I've been friends with since the 4th grade, if I had a healthcare issue, is not the person I would reach out to. So they all sort of serve a different purpose,
So when we are adult, we choose friends because we need them for some reasons or just for the soul.
I've got friends that I'm just friends with for the purpose of just being friends, and I tell people all the time that if a man has 5 real friends, that you say, hey, I really needed something, then he's lucky. 5 real friends. So I believe that.
Are you a good friend?
Yes, absolutely. I'm a really good friend.
You said when you start the company, I try to live as such as a way as to be an example for my 2 kids.
Mm-hmm.
And what do you hope they will never ask you about?
Do I hope they'll never ask me about? I can't really think of anything that. I mean, I would like to think that my children could come to me no matter what the problem was or no matter what the issue is, and that they would be able to. I mean, I guess I would hope that they never have some terminal illness and they're coming to me and asking me, about that. That's really the only thing I can think of, or that they've had a loss of maybe my grandchild or something. I would never want to have to even think about something like that. But those would be things that I would hope they never have to come and talk to me about.
What do you think we need to protect the kids from what? What the most danger?
The internet.
Why?
From the phones. Because it's a Pandora's box. It's Pandora's box, and you never know who you're talking to on the other end, and you never know. It's just like the email you and I sent backward and forth. I really had no idea who I was inviting into my office today, and I took a chance that you were going to be a friendly person who was going to come here.
But if not,
then I made a mistake, right? So,
and what are you going to do in this case?
Well, I hope you don't have to experience that, so it'll be all fine. But that's what makes it dangerous for children, is that they don't, I have decision-making skills. I have tools to help me, if you were to turn out to be not a friendly person who came here. A child doesn't always understand, the options that they have and how to get help.
How did you protect the kids from internet?
I tried my best to, monitor what they were doing, when my children were young. It was a different time, though. I mean, they didn't have cell phones. I mean, today a cell phone is like a little miniature computer, that you're carrying around with you at all times. And that wasn't something that, my children, they had a flip phone. They could text me or call me, and that was essentially all. There was no internet access back then. But those are things I worry about for my granddaughter. I mean, because she'll be coming up, and I'm sure she's going to want a cell phone at some point, And we've just got to really monitor that and make sure that we protect her as best we can.
How old is she?
She's 2.
Oh, so
yes.
She doesn't have
no,
her own
No, not
cell
yet.
phone.
Not yet.
And when it's planning to buy first phone for her, what age?
It won't be me. Somebody else will do that.
They ask your opinion about it?
I would say put it off as long as you can.
My show named The Ask, and I believe the right question can change the life.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a question for people who see us? The honest question for them?
I can't think of one that I would want to ask. I think probably for my folks back home, I would want to know, hey, do you feel like I'm doing you a good job? And they get to go to the voting booth every 2 years and decide if I'm doing a good job or not. So I can't think of a question that I would want to ask the audience.
The hardest time when you was a policeman, do you remember what was it?
Yes. It was a call I had answered where there was a young boy who had died. And he was very young. He was like 3 years old. And that was me and my partner got to this house at the exact same time. And it was just it was awful. I mean,
And how long you kept these emotions in you?
Oh, that was 25 years ago, probably.
And you still remember? And
I can see it. I can see it in my mind just like I was still there.
And what do you think when people go through situations so emotional, so deep, how they can keep themselves still positive, still continuing to do what they have to do?
I guess the way I've rationalized it is that I did the very best I could do, with that situation.
When somebody now go through very hard time, what they need to do for being able to handle it?
I think the answer for that's different for every person. There's some people who are gonna.
If it's you, for example.
I feel like I was pretty resilient. I was able to really reconcile with myself that there was nothing that I could do for that child. That there was, the best I could do was control my emotions and gather the evidence that we needed to convict the person who had hurt the child. And that I did that, and that we were able to have a successful prosecution of that person. And so, maybe had I not been able to control my emotions, the person would have gotten away with it. And that's certainly not the outcome I would ever want. And so I feel like I did the best I could do with the situation. And so it's traumatic for me, but there is no guilt on that one. There's no. It's amazing that I have guilt for the speed limit. The person who was right there, and I think that's because that was a decision I made. But with the child that I responded to the call on, I mean, I did the best I could do with the situation I was dealt.
If we forget about the police experience in this office, if we erase this for a moment, who are you?
I'm just a guy trying to do what's right, trying to make the world a better place than what I found.
What rules you follow to make right?
What rules do I mean, I just try to do what I think's right by other people. I'll be honest, have integrity. My word has to mean something to people. If I tell people I'm going to work on that problem, I have to really work on that problem, and that's what I mean by doing right by people.
Is it very hard to be honest, and at the same time, in our society, we're not able to trust a lot?
Yeah, but doesn't matter. I'm still going to be honest. I believe, my honesty is all, your integrity is all a man has.
If somebody blame you or something,
If somebody blames me for something, I'm going to still be honest about it.
Nothing changes.
Yeah, nothing changes. That doesn't change anything. Honest, the truth don't care who tells it, is the old saying that I have. So you can tell the truth 10 different times, it doesn't change.
Tell me, when the last time you were weak?
When's the last time I was weak? Well, I wanted a milkshake the other night, and I went and got it, and I knew I probably shouldn't have a milkshake because I'm overweight. And that was weakness for sure.
You regret about it now?
Not really. I just know I shouldn't have done it.